Hi, women. Thank you for joining us. Sarah here and Liane from Get the L Out, and we are happy to meet up with Gunda Schumann from Lutz Reloaded. It's a lesbian action center in Berlin, and she's going to talk about how it came about. Sarah, would you like to take over?
Well, you introduced the group already, so Gunda, just go ahead.
Okay.
You have slides, I think? Yes.
Yes, thanks a lot. Hello, everybody. I will talk about the HAW women's group that evolved to the Lesbian Action Center in the early 70s. I will show you a number of slides, how it evolved and what the activities were. And then I refer to a large exhibition in 2018. And afterwards, I will talk about our anniversary party that took place in late May. So you see, 50 years German lesbian movement from the Lesbian Action Center. The Lesbian Action Center Reloaded exists today, and the forerunners were Lesbian Action Center and Women of Homosexual Action West Berlin. So we have a long her story, as you see. Here is another. Here you see a slide, HAW Frauen, that means Homosexuelle Aktion West Berlin. In 1972, Germany was still divided, and West Berlin was a little enclave that belonged to the West. First, men organized, and then some gay women joined them, but then separated again and said, we want to have our own group, and we called it HAW Frauen. And in the further run, they decided to call it Lesbian Center because they had solidarity with the feminists, the women feminists. So, slide 4, that is quite interesting. Actions and demands by Lesbian Action Center in the 70s pushed for a more open-minded attitude to lesbians and women in the following decades by society at large. One spectacular action has been the public protest against the defamatory press coverage of a murder trial against 2 lesbian women in 1974. The press used the criminal charge against the 2 women accused of killing the abusive husband to criminalize all lesbians, headlined "The Crimes of Lesbian Women." After lesbians of HAW entered the courtroom to address the judges, the press coverage read as follows: "Judges leave the courtroom to take refuge from lesbians." So for the younger of you, in these times, lesbians were a highly discriminated minority. They were on the same level as criminals, as perverts, as crazy people, as whores. I mean, really the last dirt in society. So, and the lesbians said, we have to go to public and we have to make sure that there will be another image. Another activity was a participation in a nationwide TV documentary in 1974 titled, "And We Take Our Rights," that enlarged the German lesbian movement overnight in a manifold fashion. The founding mothers of this first engaging West German feminist lesbian movement of the 70s came from the leftist, anti-authoritarian and anti-capitalist movement of the 60s in which the dominant heteronormative and patriarchal structure of society were not at issue. Originally as Women's Group of Homosexual Action Berlin West and later as LAZ, have been engaged between the years 1972 and 1982, creating a lot of activities and projects. Here's a little spider web. The LAZ is in the middle, and you see all kinds of projects around it. For example, LAZ activists designed and organized the annual feminist summer university in West Berlin, 1979, having lectures and discussions. Another project dealt with prostitution from a lesbian feminist point of view. Some of you may realize that it's me on the left side in the picture, in the middle, of course. That was unheard of at the end of 70s, that there was a scientific interest in prostitutes. Prostitutes were really the last group in society. Imagine no scientific interest, it was just get. And that feminists didn't deal with it either. And my friend and myself, we thought at that time that might be a challenge. We will have a look and we will see what the opinion of these women is towards men and towards society at large. So we did it, and it was a big success. We published a book about it. Later on, the group dissolved. Nevertheless, the women working now in projects, men-dominated jobs, living in communes, continued taking advantage through past empowerment by radical lesbian group procedures and experiences. So that was in the mid-80s that the group dissolved. So what happens afterwards? Women project jobs and try to infiltrate society at large with another image of woman and lesbian. Then in 2018, 4 of the former LAZ organized and thought about organizing an exhibition which showed a small part of all the project and activities the lesbian movement had done in the 70s and 80s. This exhibition was called Radical Lesbian Feminist, and the women you see on the right side of the picture are all former LAZ members. The first 3, the 4th was among the lesbian teachers, which was a subgroup. And they collected all kinds of material, music, books, all kinds of treasures. A variety of as yet non-published original documents, image and audio material, and last not least, precious treasures of private collections, including records and musical instruments, were showing for the first time engaged forms of resistance, imaginative actions, publications by LAZ, and the abundance of projects that are in part ongoing till today, thereby documenting the pleasure of lesbian life in all its facets. I show you here on the left side is a lesbian summer camp in Denmark. On the top, you see the cover of an LP by Flying Lesbians. It was a very famous band. And at the bottom, you see one of the rock festivals which was for many women. Let's reload it. Now, oh, wait a minute. Yes. Now I show you another one. This was a lesbian newspaper, and this picture shows women working at a printing press. So that was a man-dominated job. Women in these times, we always said you can't do that, you are too stupid. And the Lutz women said, okay, we do exactly that what we are prohibited to do. So they applied for man-dominated jobs, or they went as self-entrepreneurial activities. Okay, after this exhibition, some got together and said, okay, we have to relaunch LAZ, and it's now called LAZ Reloaded, the Organization for Lesbian Visibility. Because it's so recent, I will show you pictures from our anniversary party. Sorry for my English sometimes. Here you see the flyer, the graphic which show which I think that is quite appropriate in these times, since women are on the retreat and lesbians in particular. And now I go through the pictures with you. That says the Lutz team is ready for the big event. These were the core Lutz, which did a lot of preparatory work. This was our keynote speaker, Halina Benkovsky, a lesbian activist who is living in Germany, but traveling around the world right now. She's in the United States. Then this says Christiane Herdl, Lutz Reloaded, and as Ilse Kukula, lesbian pioneer of scientific research, both contemporary witnesses in a talk together on the stage. Here you see the audience, full attention by a large audience. On the left side is the stage. Lesbians unite, all generations and nationalities. Here you see some Afro-German lesbian performers and artists and also speakers. Because we have also an Afro-German movement, and one of the leaders had just died, and unfortunately she couldn't come, but she was represented by some of her followers. And last not least, we had a big presentation by former lesbian band leaders. One of them is speaking right now and showing some pictures of her saxophonist career. So it was pretty successful, and we have already 4 applications to join our associations from that evening. Now I would like to show you some of our meetings to give you an impression what our current activities are besides the anniversary party. An upcoming event is called Lecture and Talk with Madeleine Marty, different than the others, a lesbian love story in the 50s. Very dark time. The next one also upcoming. Lecture and talk with Renate Klein, Lesbian Body Sense, the answer to patriarchy. She is Swiss-born but lives in Australia and is the owner of an editing house. And she has just published the book by Janice Raymond, Double Think. This was a lecture that has taken place recently in early May. Magdalena Kemper, a lesbian feminist journalist living in Berlin, talks about her interview with Giselle Freund, a lesbian Jewish immigrant and photographer, originally from Germany in Paris, 1989. Another one that we were very proud of is the situation of lesbian women, presented by a Chinese woman who called herself Sarah. That was in April. Then we had a lecture by Sabine Constable, board member of Sisters Associated Registered Association. She talked about fight for abolition of prostitution, lecture and talk, a very actual issue in Germany. Then we had a lecture and talk by Ulla Baumann. She is a lecturer at the University in Mannheim about the relationship between language and world, about discriminating language. Also a very highly actual topic in Germany in the moment. Then, Liane, you will know it. Eyewitness report about Filia, Portsmouth, the conference London, One Island, 2 conferences, 3 lesbians, Anne Schelsig, Liane Timmermann, and Melina Rauch. This was a lecture by Sabet, Detransition in Germany and internationally, one time, the other sex and back. Again, Liane talks about Get the L Out, very interesting. That was a lecture by myself. Gender Identity Replacing Sex, a Trojan Horse for Women and Game for Lesbians. Lecture and discussion. And last not least, film input talk and discussion on international networking with activist and award winner of lesbian visibility, Katharina Oguntoye, and the author Carolyn Gammon. Discourse on worldwide feminist positions of the 80s and 90s. Thanks a lot for your attention. I'm now open for questions.
Thank you,
Thank
Gunda.
you very much.
Well, go, Liane.
Thank you very much, Gunda.
Okay.
For the representation. Sarah, would you like to go? We had a question about they found it very interesting about the development of LUTs, and they ask about, there's a question asking about how is it going with you and the TRA backlash specifically for lesbians.
Yeah. LAZ has a manifesto, and we have a clear position on this. And we also do public work in that respect. I will read to you what I have prepared for that. LUTs Reloaded is analyzing, criticizing, and commenting upon imminent legislation on issues from a legal point, addressing expert committees of Deutscher Bundestag, the federal parliament, politicians of political opposition parties, as well as with other radical feminist organizations, and getting in contact with women's associations of society at large. For the purpose of addressing politicians, LAZ Reloaded is a member of this lobby register. That means registered member that is lobbying politicians of Deutscher Bundestag. We are trying, that is our public side, so to speak. We try to publish our arguments against the risks of the upcoming self-ID legislation that is not in place yet, but the government plans to enact such a law, and we are trying to do everything to raise our voices and to fight against it. Does it answer your question, or?
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
So how do you do when, like, if lesbians who are queer or pro BDSM, if they want to come to your events or to your group, how do you handle that?
If it's women, of course, they can enter our lectures and meetings. If they are in on our list, we have around 300 women on our emailing list, and of course, there are queer women among them. These are mostly Zoom meetings, as we talked before, because of the large COVID period. It may be different if we have a permanent room where we are looking for, that is still under discussion. We have to use our admission policy among the board and among the members in general. But generally, born women are admitted to our meetings. To our public meetings.
And have you ever been harassed or attacked by trans activists?
I have been deplatformed 3 years ago in February 2020. I have been deplatformed by the queer community because I had planned to have a public lecture on the risks of self-ID, trans identity, and trans activists and queer activists were successful in canceling this lecture, which was supposed to be moderated by a gay journalist. And then the organization and the location that were serving us canceled it. And I experienced a shitstorm in the social media. Key point was Gunda Schumann is a quasi-Nazi, and we don't want Nazis in our rooms and in our public. That was very harsh. That was, of course, defamatory. And we took the consequences of the lecture, but with less and at another location, which we rented ourselves. There was great interest. There were around 50 women, because in 2020, in Germany on the issue was very, very small. You know, in the UK and the United States, the development, or in the Anglo-Saxon countries, the development had started much earlier. And in Germany, it started around 5 years later. But now it's rampant, maybe not that physically aggressive, but very aggressive. And in the social media, it's terrible.
So what advice would you give to lesbians who want to do a little bit like you are doing, like create a lesbian group and do some public events? Sorry, I think there's a problem with the internet.
Yeah, I can't hear you really.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So I was asking if you have any advice for lesbians who want to do a bit like you and create a lesbian group and organize public events.
Yeah. To be honest, I can give you advice for Germany because I know the situation here the best. We have decided to register to get registered as an association, which enables us to decide who is entering our rooms and space and who may not enter, because we set the rules ourselves. There might come problems once Germany has a self-ID law, and if it really happens that the term sex will be redefined, that women are men and vice versa, and nobody knows exactly what will happen then. But at the moment, when you say women only, it is clear that only women who are born as females will be accepted as women.
We have a question from someone who is watching us, Maxima. She asked if there were any problems with trans activists at the last event in Berlin.
Yes, there were. But fortunately, we could handle it. Fortunately. As to my knowledge, there was one trans person who got in without any notice from our security and others, but who left out after a while unnoticed. Then there was another one accompanied by a female girlfriend who was noticed, who was a friend of our event manager, who said this person might get in. And the security thought that the event manager has a say. Finally, our board member, Christiane Herdl, entered the lobby and ordered this person to get out of the room, which actually happened. So there was no physical attack, there was no fight, there were only arguments. And that person asked the admission fee back. So he got his ticket back and the admission fee and also the girlfriend, and that was it. Altogether, we had over 200 women, and it was really a small fraction of that whole event where we had to deal with this problem. So we were very happy, finally, that it was one of the smaller problems. But this problem exists in Germany too. One trans person was at the entrance, argued with security, but was not let in. So we didn't realize it from inside.
I see. Someone is also asking about wider politics in Germany. Which political parties are on your side when it comes to this issue?
That is a very good question. I assume that is the Christian Democrats. So far, only some individuals from the Christian Democrats have made statements in this regard, but not the party as a whole. So we will really know when the self-ID law enters the committees in parliament and when we have public hearings where the parties will have to position themselves. Then we will know exactly. We know better which parties are against us. These are the Greens, 200%. There are very few dissenters who are extremely discriminated. But the party as a whole is for the self-ID issue, or for the self-ID legislation, very clear. The Greens have issued a draft bill last year, and Let's Reloaded has filed a statement which was published by the committee in the Deutsche Bundestag. So it was put in the internet. There was also a doctor, a medical expert who talked about, especially about the impact on young people, youth and children. And one Christian Democrat politician had argued in favor of us. The Social Democrats are in a way split. However, in the coalition agreement last year, they agreed to have a self-ID law. But the opposition within the Social Democratic Party is remindful, is quite open and serious. Then we have the Liberal Democrats. They are against us. The Liberal Democrats are, let's say, a man's party. Women have not much to say there. They are the party that is in favor for the entrepreneurs, for the capital, for wider, faster, larger, everything. For example, no speed limit at highways. No limit whatsoever. They are for a weak state, not for a strong state, and so on. So to summarize that up, it's a Christian Democrats. We have some hope, but the other democratic parties are more or less in favor of the trans activists.
So basically, it's the same everywhere. You can say that with everywhere, with the Greens, with the Liberal Democrats, with the Tories, and so on. It's the whole political spectrum in each country. It doesn't matter what country it is. It sums it up kind of the same. That the Greens are pro-trans, Liberals are pro-trans, the lefties overall, they are mostly all trans, and the Christian Democrats, they know what sex is.
Yes, but that's because they have been oppressing us for centuries based on this. So
yeah.
They're not against trans activism for the same reasons that we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are for gender roles, and they think it's attached to biology. So they just know what biology is, but they don't want to do the same as us.
No, of course not. They are also for against abortion and so on. I mean, we don't. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is not so. It's a bit more complicated. There are some people in the Christian Democratic Party who have a quite progressive standpoint about women, because the Christian Democratic Party has very strong women. It's not only a men's party, they have very strong female politicians. So I have some hope there that they will raise their voice in that respect. Who is also against it is the AfD, that is a right-wing party, but of course we cannot make a coalition with the right-wing party, that is impossible. They have a right wing that is, in the real sense of the word, quasi-Nazi, you know. The whole party is observed by our Secret Service, so I mean, it is not possible. However, they are members of the federal parliament, so they may also raise their voice. Then we have the leftists, the left-wing party, which is also pro-trans. However, there are also some voices who are against it. But they are not relevant. There are very few people. Relevant is the coalition government and the Christian Democrats. And there is a certain opposition among scientists. So we are liaising with some progressive doctors and biologists and other scientists who recently have spoken up in public and in the internet have circulated a paper that could be signed by followers. So there is some opposition in the civil society, but it's really just starting. It is not so developed as in Anglo-Saxon countries. It's just starting. There are some journalists like Emma, the feminist newspaper, who is speaking up against trans ideology. They are attacked whatsoever as transphobic and trans hostile, whatever. And they were even charged with the German press council that they have violated the press rules. And the press council, an official board by all journalists, has decided recently that Emma has acted correctly and that they are neither transphobic nor whatever discriminatory, that they are just doing their job. So that is also quite gives you some hope that there are some voices that are on our side.
Thank you very much, Gunda, for coming on and giving us a little bit of history from the Lats and a big bit of background what's going on in Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
And bye, women. Thank you for listening in, and everybody have a good evening. Bye.
Okay. Bye.